Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Drew Grimaldi podcast. We are still waiting for our guest to join us, but while we are doing that, man, the Democrats are absolutely insane right now, aren't they? Absolutely crazy. But check this one out. So, this one here is the Democrats, CNN admitting how bad the Democrats' approval rating is right now. Check this one out. It's pretty crazy. They are just the most unpopular creatures on the planet, and they're still trying to figure out why. It's pretty obvious why, I think. But here we go. Check this one out here.
Voters feeling about Democrats right now?
Yeah, I mean, Democrats in the minds of the American public are lower than the Dead Sea. What are we talking about here? Well, let's take a look. The net approval rating for Democrats in Congress, you said it, Kate Baldwin, the lowest ever. Look at this. Overall, they are 55 points underwater. Their approval rating is south of 20%. It's even worse when you look at independents. Look at this. Negative 61 points. That means that their approval rating is 61 points lower than their disapproval rating. Quinnipiac has been polling this question for the better part of the 21st century. They have never found Democrats, at least those in Congress, in worse shape than they are right now.
How are voters feeling about Democrats right now?
Yeah.
They're hated. The Democrats are hated. They're just not popular, and nothing that they're doing is helping anybody. It's just sad. But we've got Trump in this one here. He trolls our allies, and it's the funniest thing ever. Check this one out. This is a great video of him absolutely just trolling our, what would be considered our allies. But this year, hang on, I gotta sign in. So, oh, this is annoying. So this one, this really needs to just work for me here. There we go. All right. So here's the screen. Check this one out. This is Trump just trolling our allies. Absolutely hysterical.
He knows about rigged elections better than anybody. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay, why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? You're running low on soldiers, and then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go, and I want this.
June 6th, tomorrow, this is D-Day anniversary, when the Americans once ended a war in Europe.
That was not a pleasant day for you?
No, that was not a pleasant...
This is not a great...
I wish I would have paid for that.
If you believe that, it's okay with me. Rigged election.
Just hilarious how he just absolutely trolls these people in just the funniest of ways. But the Democrats, all they have is Trump derangement syndrome, and that's what it is. Check this one out here. This one is Bernie Sanders just going ape shit. And it's just a derangement syndrome.
We are living, as I think most people know, with a president who is a pathological liar. He is an authoritarian. What concerns him most is wealth and power. I think he has very little empathy for his fellow human beings. And you're quite right. It is extremely dangerous that a man like that is president of the United States. And Chris, what we have got to do, is figure out why that happened and how we build a political movement of working people that ends Trumpism once and for all, starting in 2026. Look, we are living...
This guy just rages on like the machine. Nothing that he says even makes any sense. You know, oh, he's a fascist. Oh, he's that. Oh, he's this, he's that. He's not, though. It's just wild in the fact that you have a group of people that no matter how good of a job or what Donald Trump does, he will always get shit on, and there will be somebody that wants to do the opposite. I truly believe that if Donald Trump cured cancer, it would be like, Donald Trump cures cancer. Here's how that's a bad thing. Politico. It's just so disingenuous. It really is. It's the Democrats have a dissonance going on right now. The only way that they know how to fight is by doing what they do with riots and cheating, and that's what they do, which causes even more unrest on our end. Because look at January 6th. They love to bring up January 6th, but we all know that January 6th now, we know that the Kavanaugh hearing, when the Democrats stormed the Capitol, that was worse. But you didn't hear Republicans say, oh, this is worse than September 11th, and this is worse than Pearl Harbor. Like, people lost their lives in that. And there was one life lost on January 6th, and that was Ashley Babbitt. God rest her soul. But I continue on. Trump sends troops into Memphis after having the whole problem with the Minnesota people. Trump decided to send them into Memphis. Well, he had a press conference. Check this one out. This is how good everything is now in Memphis. Check this one out. This is fantastic.
We've arrested 7,000 criminals, seized more than 1,100 illegal guns, taken more than 1,000 pounds of illicit narcotics, and rescued more than 150 missing children, making their parents beyond help. In total, we've arrested 7,000 criminals.
7,000 criminals. 7,000 criminals. And think about this. In Minnesota, you had 3,354 children that were saved. So you're talking about something that is a good thing. But the Democrats, they always have something negative to say about these things. They do. And the Democrats are just insane. They really are. But I digress to this one here. So we have our Iran. Now, Iran has been a separator, a divider for our country. And the truth of the matter is it's been a very dividing thing. So what I don't think we need is a lecture, but we got one from Hegseth. But sometimes it's a good thing. Check this one out. This is the lecture by Hegseth to, I believe, the media that was looked upon kind of differently. But check this one out here.
I'll start kind of where you left off, Mr. President. Thank you for doing the work of the free world and having the courage to step up and stop the Iranian terror regime from holding the world hostage. That's really what it is. And 27 days ago, Iran had a modern military. Never in recorded history has a nation's military been so quickly and effectively neutralized. Operation Epic Fury is not an endless war. It's a decisive campaign with clear objectives to destroy Iran's offensive military capabilities and ensure they never obtain a nuclear weapon. This is stuff for the history books. This is stuff for legacy. Mr. President, you are acting now to ensure future generations do not have to live under the threat of a nuclear-armed Iran. However, you wouldn't know it if you listened to the dishonest hate Trump media, as you referenced. The folks here in the room, these cameras, they have a choice. You're either informing the American people of the truth or you're not. Because I hear it from my people every day. Behind every headline you write, there's a helicopter crew in the air. And behind every news banner you write, there's a battalion on the move. And behind every fake news story, there's an F-35 pilot executing a dangerous mission. My message to the media is get it right. This actually isn't something new to me. I may be a young guy, Mr. President, but I'm not a rookie in this realm. In 2007, I helped lead the surge, the public fight for the Iraq surge. Stood and watched people stand in the Senate and declare the war is lost before it even started. Who was that? It was Harry Reid That was the Democrats and the media working hand in glove. Back then, it was 3 years into a war. Now we're 3 weeks into an operation. But see, unlike Iraq, this isn't a tie. This is not parity. This is not chaos. This is success, pure American success, on plan, and as the president said, ahead of pace. Over 10,000 enemy targets destroyed, over 140, I think now you're right, Mr. President, over 150 naval vessels sunk, underground facilities destroyed, their defense industrial base in shambles, and overnight, not only do they not have a Navy, Mr. President, they no longer have a Navy commander. IRGC's Navy commander was killed overnight in operation. So no Navy leader. Now that here's the thing about the media, though. If President Trump had not acted, you'd be screaming, why not? And now that he has taken decisive action, you're asking, well, why did you? It's the same old tired playbook, TDS in your DNA. But the hardworking, God-fearing, patriotic Americans out there know better. And you alluded to this, President Obama, Mr. President. Here's a fact that you don't hear on your networks, but we know. Many of the Iranian military factories and bases that we're systematically destroying were paid for by the pallets of American cash that Barack Obama flew into Tehran under the Iran deal. You might call it an inconvenient truth. Iran took our money and turned it into weapons and bunkers and ammo. And now we're destroying those weapons, and you're righting, Mr. President, that grievous wrong. And make no mistake, we had to act. And our objectives are clear. No nukes, no Navy, and a complete dismantling of their missile program and defense industrial base. And as Marco pointed out, that mission, and the VP as well, has not changed since day one. Yet, 2 days ago, they shot 2 failed missiles on a target 4,000 kilometers away. For years, they told the world that their missiles could only range.
Hey, sorry about that. I had it on my calendar at 10:50.
No, no worries. So we have Rick with us. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah. How are you doing?
Beautiful, beautiful. Good, good, good. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much. And what a world, what a crazy week, right?
Oh, I know. Oh my gosh. Was it ever? Was it ever? Oh my gosh. I mean, like you talk about some of the craziest. These people are insane. Like the Democrat Party, these people are borderline nuts. And there's statistics out there saying that these people are naturally more unhappy, and they want us to be just as unhappy as the rest of them.
Yeah, I'm out. I'm not buying into it. And the very fact that our great president during his State of the Union address literally calls out on national TV and basically shows the American people they are for the illegals and they don't care about you, the American taxpayer, at all. And it's like, wait a minute. He frames it correctly. Who are we working for? The American taxpayer or the illegals who are stealing from us, especially in Minnesota, the Somali pirates that are out here just swashbuckling their way throughout the United States. And we find that Minnesota's not alone. Here we go, California, Michigan, all these states. And it's just like, holy cow, the grift is on full display. And the Democrat Party, even in Minnesota, they don't care to stop the fraud. I mean, it's just like, holy cow. Is this dystopia land now at this point? Where is our country? And so thankfully, people like you who are doing these interviews and alerting the public and exposing the truth, we need more lions out there to basically run for politics, get involved in your school boards, get involved in your city councils, your county commissioners, state politics, and you better show up and vote. I'm a little scared of what happened in Florida here. The very fact that Trump's own house was captured by a Democrat because white males sat home and didn't vote.
Right.
That is an alarm. And so I'm hoping people aren't giving up, and we've got to give them the courage to stand up. And so people like you, me. Yep.
What do you think that we should do to get, obviously there's more turnout when Donald Trump is on the ticket. And they're talking about doing these, a little, convention before the midterms. How do we fix that? How do we get people, let's go, I mean, I get that way because I know what's at stake, but
yeah, I think you have the key. And so if we think about if we think about Donald Trump, we know he's a sales guy, right?
right,
He's
yes,
a marketer. So I think politics have changed forever. We think about how Trump went out and did these rallies to really electrify the base, and having that sense of community on the Republican side has been missing for so long. Trump brings that sense of community and that base and that energy. So now we have to find out, what are other candidates going to do to replicate that, because that's the disconnect. You can't just market on Facebook. You can't just sit out emails. That's boring.
right,
Guys need to connect.
yes.
And so kind of having that beer, having that pop, having that meat, that steak, that little campfire experience again, we need it back again. And so we need to look for candidates that are willing to do those types of rallies again and get the primal spirit of guys to go back like, yes, it is time for us to be aligned again, to protect our families, to protect our state, and to protect our country. Trump did it. And so this is what's interesting, that Lindell has announced that he wants to do 70 rallies in the state of Minnesota over the next 90 days. And so that is kind of electrifying. And of course, Lindell, I mean, come on, he sold pillows and he became a multimillionaire doing that. So if he can sell a pillow, I think he can sell an idea and a dream beyond just sleeping well at night, to actually maybe saving your country, saving your state, and saving Minnesota from all of the fraud.
Yeah. What would you like to see done in terms of the fraud? What would be, like what would you say? What needs to be done? Because obviously, you stop some of those payments, you're going to have people, oh my God, they're cutting off our benefits. Like a drug addict, you cut off their drugs, all of a sudden they're like, oh, they freak out, they go nuts. And I think we're seeing a lot of that in Minnesota.
Yeah, so I think it's long overdue that we need to evaluate every single recipient to make sure that A, they're real, and B, they actually need the program. And so we have to go through and investigate that. And so Nick Shirley's absolutely right when he puts the video out there and it's just like, hey, there's nobody here. How about we stop those ones immediately? That's a simple one day, get all the employees out of Department of Health and Human Services in Minnesota and go knock on a few doors to find out if they're actually real.
Yeah,
that can be done
Center.
in 24 hours. Right, the Leering Center. So if we can leering a little bit and learn from and lear from our experiences, that could actually be a good thing. And so it shouldn't take more than, say, a week to basically stabilize that part of the program. Then when we get to some of the other programs, we need to do the same thing. And then we need to take a step back to actually determine, wait a minute here. As Mike Lindell says, he understands deviations. And so if you see a deviation, like, why did this program increase 20, 30, 50, 500%
outside
in
of the standard
1,
deviation.
2, 3 period?
Right.
Yeah, we probably need to take a better look at that, because
absolutely, like COVID was like that. You saw that with like the birth rates, and it was like things are way out here, and you're like, what's going on?
Right. And so this is really a critical election for Minnesota, because as we see taxes continue to rise, it's punishing entrepreneurs, it's punishing middle class America, because as the wealthy leave, who's going to pay the bill?
Right.
That's you. And so if the programs don't come down or they increase and the wealthy leave, who's left holding in the bag?
Right.
And so
I think you see that in New York too right now with Mom Dami.
You've got it. That's
everybody's going to
leave. The middle class are going to flee. And then who's going to pay the bill? They're coming after you, the middle class, because socialists want to cut a program. It's not going to happen. And so we may end up in this death spiral in New York that we will just see it continually fail. And so the question is, can Minnesota stop the bleeding? Can other jurisdictions stop the bleeding? And when you look at those top 3 blue states of Illinois, Michigan, and New York, but even California, the top 4, they're all because Texas,
I'm losing you a little
Tennessee,
bit here.
and
You there? Can you hear me?
population.
I lost you a little bit there. Hold
Yep,
on.
I can hear you.
You there?
Yep, I'm still.
Okay. All right. I think the screen's going a little wacky here, but I can still hear you. So, can you still hear me okay? All right.
Yep.
Hang on. There we go. Maybe. I don't know what the hell's going on with this thing. So, with
Demons are coming in.
I know. I swear it is. I swear it is. There it is. Okay. So,
Little gremlins.
I think so. Yeah. They don't want us to do this. Yeah, they're saying that the
Oh, they don't want the truth exposed. Those little demons are after you.
Well, we got a little bit of snow
Little
here in
gremlins.
Michigan, and
Oh,
it's
okay.
like, everything goes nuts just because it's, everybody's getting ready to wear, shorts. It's 40 degrees. People wear shorts, and all of a sudden it's 30, so it's back to the 20s. And you're like, so,
Right.
but
I know. Don't you love the northern climate of, you have third spring and fourth winter, just the psychology of Mother Nature. She's completely going through menopause.
oh yeah, the most bipolar thing ever. It'd be a purple haired
Right.
rioter,
Exactly.
if it was a person.
Right.
But I wanted to ask you this because we got the Save America Act coming out there, right? And you hear Thune say that, well, we don't have the votes. He doesn't want to bring. I mean, he doesn't want to nuke the filibuster. He says we don't have the votes to nuke the filibuster. Do you think this guy's just holding the keys to the castle, going, or do you think it's like he really doesn't have the votes?
Let's not discriminate. Let's open our minds and say both are true.
Okay. All right. I like that.
Okay.
And you know why I like that is because you got the Candace Owens, sect of the party right now, and and they just try to separate you.
Yeah.
Rather than try to be a uniter, not a divider.
Right. And so John Thune is my senator. You weak, feckless bastard. You should actually put it to a vote so that way we, the voters, during the primary election can maybe potentially remove a few more of you.
Right.
We should put it on the record.
Yeah. Oh, I think so too. Yeah. I mean, I just don't like what he has to say. I think he's been working against the president the whole time.
Well, actually, there's evidence of that because the very fact that they have not had a long enough recess to allow our president to do recess appointments like he allowed Joe Biden to do. I'm sorry. I'm over it. And we have a few things to kind of get done because we're losing runway for the president to be able to, in essence, get the accountability that the country has been expecting. We still don't have accountability over, the deleted 33,000 emails. We still don't have accountability on Epstein. We still don't have the accountability of Russiagate. We still don't have the accountability of the election fraud. So with those four things top of all Americans' minds, plus now the fifth with all of the fraud going on across the United States and the grift of our federal dollars, the president's losing runway and John Thune is in the way.
Yeah. I agree. It would be nice to see him try to just do something, even if he brought it and it failed, you could say, look,
right.
I tried. But
yeah.
he's not even.
And we can look at some of the evidence. Like, why would Dan Bongino quit the FBI? Oh, I know, because he was basically hoodwinked to where he couldn't be effective and he couldn't get the prosecutions that he needed and the evidence out. And so that's frustrating because we have this fractured FBI of good people who are trying to get accountability, and people who are blocking and continually weaponizing the FBI against good Americans that are out there. And so when you have this FBI agency that's not cleaned up, and you have the same thing at the Department of Justice, this is absolutely embarrassing. And unfortunately, we don't even have enough attorneys on conservative circles to basically take these positions across the United States.
Yeah,
and so when you look at Minnesota, and so it's like we have a lot of work to do. And so we need to get more of our lions trained and to help take over these responsibilities, because here's the fact. One of my good friends, Susan Sjogren Smith out of Minnesota, she said this a few years ago, and she's just like, you know what? Democrats will tell their kids to go work for the government. Republicans and conservatives
Do not.
won't teach their kids to go work for the government.
That's a good point. I mean, yeah, we're all small government. We're like, go make it yourself.
Right.
So, but I say that too, though. Ever since Donald Trump, I've always said that politicians should be ex-businessmen who were successful, who get into it and decide, hey, I want to serve the public, not somebody that says, I'm going to get into politics, make $200,000 a year, and retire with 26 million in the bank.
Right. Yeah. And there needs to be more accountability in that level, especially on both sides of the
and they won't
parties.
pass it. And they won't pass it.
Yeah.
The Insider Trading Act. I mean, it's like, it's like common sense, but what does that tell you? I was happy to see Dan Crenshaw get tossed. That guy was the biggest rhino I've ever seen. And it was always like, he used to say a lot of good things. I'd be like, oh, I really like this guy. It's something to keep an eye on. And then, man, he started just insider trading and just started, a lot of the Ukraine, and it was like, what's going on?
And the question is, thank God the voters stepped up and took corrective action. So this is one of the messages that we have to teach, voters, especially on the conservative side. Don't give up, because there are a lot of good people out there who are willing to help affect change, support that change, keep it going. And so like what we see in South Dakota, where we actually, our grassroots got together and we replaced a lot of our conservative, quote unquote, legislators with Freedom Caucus members. And boy, has that created a nice change in our legislature, where we actually passed the SAVE Act before our own senator did. So it put Governor Roden in a little bit of a pickle on Thursday, where he finally signed the South Dakota voter ID SAVE Act for South Dakota. And it was on his desk since March 10th. And it would have gone active live without a signature on Friday. So he signed it on Thursday, just a day before it would have automatically done it. And so that puts additional pressure on Thune. And Thune just, I'm sorry, to have DHS unfunded and Trump just to come in and say, oh yeah, here, boom, executive order.
Yeah. I think it's crazy too. So like you have ICE that's technically already still funded through the big beautiful bill.
Right.
And then, so what exactly is the point of the partial shutdown right now? I mean, other than stopping people from getting their paychecks, what is it really doing other than making us less safe?
It's absolutely ridiculous. This should have never happened under a Republican watch, and Thune should have put all the Democrats, on notice, because when we have all of these primaries happening across the country, this could have helped us potentially replace even some of the Democrats, because we even see that there are good Democrats who are coming up, kind of looking at the left, kind of going, yeah, I think we're done with you guys, and we may see them come back towards moderation. And the very fact that Thune isn't allowing that is absolutely disgusting. And so this is where I think he's making a miscalculation, and that could actually hurt us. And so I'm actually concerned that in the general election, if Americans don't wake up to what they're trying to do here, we could be in serious trouble. Could you imagine the Democrats seizing control of the Senate, seizing control of the House, and all of a sudden, where are we back again?
Yeah.
Here we go. Let's start impeachment 2.0. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's just like we'll lose so much ground again. And we can't have this, and we're going to have more riots in our cities and stuff like that. I mean, here we are today. No King's Protest Part 3 is around the United States. Right. So it's just like, and so, and I'm glad to do the interview with you here today. The last time they had No King's Protest 2.0, I went out there with my Jesus is King flag and sat there and just trolled them. So it was, and then a bunch of other people started joining me. It was just fantastic. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. So what are your thoughts on what's going on with Iran? I know that is pretty dividing of the Republican Party right now. You got your Tucker Carlsons that say their part, and you got, your, let's say, Levine end of it. Mark Levine.
Yeah. So
how do you bring these two sides back together so that we are one cohesive unit like the Democrats are, because they vote together as a single unit no matter what?
Well, I'm gonna challenge that a little bit. Democrats aren't always united on things, and so they're having a little bit of an intra-party discussion about that. And you could even say uniformly Republicans could be more united, but when it comes down to specific issues like Iran, yeah, there's diversity of opinion, and I understand the spectrum that is out there, and I appreciate it. And I'm glad there is the spectrum, because then at least within our party we actually have a good dialogue. Now, I'm more I'm going to say I'm more I took a step back and I kind of looked at it. All right, so for me, this is where I look at some of the valuation of it. I support the president's action in this because I'm looking at the long term. And I understand critics who are like, well, wait a minute here. This is hurting our allies. This is hurting America. Why are we doing this? Well, I don't know. When you have a country that basically is saying death to America, are we going to take them seriously? We've literally been at war with them since 1978.
Right.
And so this president has basically said, okay, we've been kicked in the shins here a few times, and they've been lying to us. And now all of a sudden there's this evidence of, yeah, they were developing nuclear arms, and that little long-range missile that everybody said, oh, they didn't have that, and it basically almost hits Italy. Oh, wait a minute here. I guess they did have that,
Right.
So it's good that we are taking them back. And I think it's also...
After Witkoff came back, Witkoff and then went to go talk to them, and they said, "Well, we have enough for 11 nuclear warheads." It's like that was the worst thing you could have possibly said.
Correct. And so this whole appeasement that the Obama administration did nothing for our security. It only allowed them to buy more weapons and to basically
the pallets of cash.
Correct. Oh. And when we look at, and so what's interesting as well as. I think we're going to look back as Trump is the most consequential world leader, because look at what he's already done with Venezuela. Look at how he's cleaning up South America. Look at what he's about to do to Cuba. And look at what he's doing in Iran. He is literally defanging both Russia and China at the same time, as well as these other countries who are not on our side. And so by defanging Iran as well, and allowing the other Arab countries to be able to ship their oil in peace to Europe, it's like, here we are as kind of the big brother going out and helping Europe. Now, their gas prices right now are through the roof because they relied on so much of the Iranian oil.
Yeah,
now, I'm a little upset that Israel...
45% right now. They're going to hit the hardest, not us.
Right. And luckily for us in the United States, only about 10% of our oil is foreign-based. And so the strategy of going after the Venezuelan oil first as a backup plan to be able to supplement us, not a bad idea. And cut off China, not a bad idea.
It's a
then
perfect
going
idea.
over
strategically. It did what we needed to. It takes away some of that power from China. And that was kind of the back end strategy that I don't think they really publicized too much. You just heard from the media, oh my God, we're going to a war. It's another endless war. And I'm like, I don't believe for a second it's going to be endless. Like, this guy has finished things quicker than anybody. I mean, there's no way he would let this go into the midterms. I don't think. But it's interesting.
I hope not.
It's interesting to see him put J.D. Vance out there now to talk to, the Israeli delegation, I think, to kind of play good cop, bad cop, maybe.
Yes. Yes. But I also think as a long-term vision cast too, where he's trying to really test J.D. Vance on the world stage, and Marco Rubio. I'm actually proud of the team that we have during this administration, and so I really trust where they're going, and I really appreciate kind of the thoughtfulness of it, because when you think about strategically these actions that Trump is taking, is it helping America in the long term? Yeah, I think it is. I think it's actually building a better planet.
I agree. When you have a crazy, jihadist with nuclear weapons, that's not a safe world.
Right. And when you have a government that's willing to kill 20,000 of its own citizens, ethically, should we intervene as Americans? I know that's a tough question for folks, and I think there are times that we do.
Yeah.
And my heart
Like the
breaks.
Christians in Nigeria, I thought that was the time you got to move. Thought it was the right thing to
Exactly.
do.
And so I think, it's like some people say, we shouldn't have America be the cops of the world. If not us, who?
Right.
Would you want Russia to do it? They're willing to do
Or
it.
China.
Are you willing to have China come in and do it?
Yeah, look
And
what
so
they're
China,
doing to their Muslim population.
That's right. And China is really escalating their naval fleet. And do you really want China to be responsible for securing the world trade? Are you going to be okay when China blockades us from getting products from some of our partners and our allies? We have to ask that question. So China, I don't think, is really about free trade. China is about China.
Yeah.
And we just had an incident here in the U.S. where they were spying on us and they were going to, put off a little bomb, a little
Right.
terrorism.
Well, and we were
So,
talking about it too. The Chinese, during the 2020 election, they sent all of the Chinese foreign exchange students all these fake IDs in these
right.
states where you could just go, oh, here's my ID. I'm a citizen. I want to register to vote. Same day registration. Go in, vote. And that's why in 2020, we just saw like explosions of bullshit that just,
Yep.
it was like, so you did some crazy good work there on that. So you went out and you
They,
bought and you purchased a few of these Dominion voting machines. This is what you had said.
Yeah, and what was so disgusting about some of these states, counties, and cities is that they would actually put some of their old voting equipment online at auctions.
That's
And
crazy.
so I would sit there and
That's
scour them,
insane.
and I would find them and buy them to try and protect us from having bad actors buy that equipment. And in a few instances, they were sitting outside of their county offices on citywide cleanup day.
That's
And so,
insane. And think about it. If you didn't grab it, somebody else could to learn how to hack it.
correct,
Yeah.
correct. And so it's just absolutely disgusting how that came about. And you can even buy some of the equipment in other countries and get it back into the United States. And some of the software is even on the dark web where you can download it and see what's going on there. And so, I mean, it's just like our elections are not secure. The vendors have not done a good job. The states have not done a good job. And the federal government has completely wasted our time. And so I have tried at first to try and raise the alarm and the awareness to get even the vendors to even update the security part of the software. And they have refused to do it. And I've been working at this for 4 years on that argument alone. And so finally I gave up and just said, look, these companies are irredeemable. They're not actually doing engineering change orders, which is publicly available. Anybody can go to the EAC's website, eac.gov, look up the engineering change orders, and you're going to see few and far in between updates from the manufacturers to even update the antivirus, the Windows updates, the Linux updates. Even the ones that have connections over the internet for the Cisco routers, you will see that their ASA software is so out of date, it's ridiculous. And even the base level part of our elections are not secure. So, for example, the paper itself, they lack watermarks. Many of them lack dual signatures between election judges. You can go buy the paper in multiple states, have it even shipped to your house. You can see that election officials put the sample ballots up on the internet, and they have the timing marks, so you can print your own ballots and you can stuff them into the drop boxes.
Well,
I mean,
I thought that was an
this is a
interesting
joke.
part too. After the 2020 election, they brought in these guys to talk about like the fraudulent, forensic evidence to look at the ballots. And one of the things that I think is just insane is that they scan them through. They have the scan copy, and that's all they have. So then at the end of the day, you go back to forensically audit these things to see, hey, were these things, mass printed off by a computer where they filled in the bubble? You can't even do the forensic auditing at that
Yeah,
point.
and that's the key phrase that you just had there. So the difference between a fake ballot and a real ballot is that when a person fills out a real ballot with a pen, it creates an indentation on the paper so that you can actually look at that and see, yep, that was filled out by a person. Whereas one that was laser printed out isn't going to have the indentation in the paper. That's a fake ballot.
Or even the folds,
Yep.
from putting it in the envelope and stuff like that.
Right. Exactly. And sometimes ballots are designed, so like in 2020, some of the ballots, and all manufacturers tell you this, please make sure when you're designing your ballots that you test the folds where they go, because if it traverses one of the ovals, the fold could actually be picked up as a line going through, and so it could be picked up as a vote that was not intended by the voter. And so it can actually throw out votes. And I found this out in reviewing the cast vote records in Dodge County, Wisconsin, and I'm like, holy cow, there are thousands of these ballots that have these overvotes in there, and the election officials didn't catch it. And when I sat down with that administrator, she was just like, oh, no, our process caught it. And I'm like, no, it didn't, because if your process caught it, these ballot images would not exist.
Right.
They exist because somebody hit the override button.
Well, and the thing, too, is, during 2020, what you saw a lot, too, was you had a lot of these ballots, they would come in and they'd be, oh, it looks like you're froze a little bit. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
All right, good. So, a lot of these ballots came in, like the 3 a.m. ballot drops where you have just, and everybody says, oh, no, this didn't happen. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, you look at guys like Rudy Giuliani, all of these people, all of the attorneys and stuff after 2020, a lot of these guys, lost money doing these kind of things, like why
licenses.
Yeah. And you're almost like, why would they? It goes back to the Bible thing, why would, Matthew or, Andrew, allow himself to be skinned alive, in the name of Jesus Christ, if it wasn't real. Right. And
That's
kind of goes with the same thing. But what were your thoughts on like the Kerry Lake situation? Because I know right after 2020, you had the Kerry Lake, and there was some crazy stuff going on with the ballots out there too. They had some pretty weird stuff going on where all of a sudden the ballots shut down. They were finding that Republicans were getting different ballots than other ones. And then it all turns out that Katie Hobbs, who's now the governor, she was the Secretary of State at the time, overseeing her election to become governor. Like, how does that? I don't understand how that works, but you think there'd be a law?
It's absolutely criminal. It absolutely is criminal, and there should have been a full investigation. There wasn't. Those of us in the election integrity movement now, as we all kind of started, whether it was 2016, 2018, 2020, some of us had different starting points, but 2020 was really kind of the gasoline over everything. And because of the way that the laws were written, we failed because we didn't understand how important the timelines were. So many of the states have such a short timeline that you have anywhere from 7 to 10 days on average to contest an election. And that is after the canvassing board has certified the election. And so depending on where you are, that sets the different dates as to the deadline. And now we've realized as election integrity experts that we have to start much earlier to collect the evidence, and it really starts in the absentee period and even before the absentee period. And having that knowledge now, so like the Lindell campaign, we are looking at 6 different things that we have to implement right out of the gate to serve notice to Minnesota, the Secretary of State, and each of the county election officials so that they understand where we are coming from. And so that includes little things that we've been ignoring for years, but we've had successful cases since then forward. Number 1, the certification of the machines. Number 2, the testing of the machines. Are they actually ready to go? Number 3, what kind of equipment are they actually handing our voters? So for example, in South Dakota, I worked diligently over the last 4 years to force election officials to only hand out black pens, because I actually did a test, the difference between black, blue, red pens, and found out that blue pens do not get picked up as reliably as a black pen.
Interesting.
When you are casting ballots. And so if somebody has just a light blue mark going across the oval, the machine 80% of the time won't pick it up. But if it was a black pen, it would have picked it up. And so those types of variants, and not everybody fills in the oval completely. And so that makes a difference. So there's a lot of voter education. Then on top of that, with the logic and accuracy test, are there any programming issues? Because, hey, I'm a human. The reason I'm not a programmer, because I suck at typing. I make a lot of mistakes. so I
That's what
give grace.
ChatGPT is for now, to do the code, right?
Right. And so I give grace to ES&S and Dominion and Hart and even the election officials who are doing all the programming themselves, because things can happen. And we've seen this in U.S. elections where there have been vote flips, and I believe a majority of it is not intentional. I believe mistakes can happen. So I will defer to mistakes first before I go to fraud. But then if they aren't properly testing, I'm going to assume fraud, because the robustness of the testing should be able to detect that, so that you have enough bandwidth to go, okay, we got to fix this. Right. And then I've seen different ballot designs created by election officials intentionally to throw off elections. And that is absolutely disgusting. So that gives rise to why cast vote records are important to get out there, so we can actually see the ballots. But then I'm sitting there like, well, these things aren't even secure, because the whole process is insecure as we go through the various steps. Why am I spending millions of dollars on these machines and sending the money off to another state or to other developers in other countries, when I might actually be better off just paying the people in my community to actually count their own ballots and keep the money in the community and recycle it back into the community? Right. And then, of course, there are some patriots that are out there, both Democrat and Republicans, that you could go over to the VFW, you could go to the Legion and say, hey, would you guys, since you guys swore an oath to protect and defend our country, you willing to come over and count ballots? Oh, they'd probably be running over if you gave them some pizza and some beer afterwards.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Those results are going to be done in probably an hour, because they're so dedicated.
In fact, that's how Florida gets it counted so quickly.
Right, exactly. It's just like, and we do have choices, but I prefer our Republican form of government. I mean, if people say that hand counting is going to take too long, I do have a few solutions for you. And we'll start with the really extreme one. We can go straight to dictatorship, and you don't have to worry about elections ever again. It just solves it. Or we can do hand counting, and we can do a couple other little cool pieces. So, for example, in South Dakota, if you file for office at a city or school board level, and you're the only person that filed for office, guess what? We don't produce a ballot for you so that you can basically claim your name to fame. You just won. Nobody needs to vote for you because you already got your petition filed and signed that other people sign their name on it. You're good. You're good to go. We don't need to waste money on this. We also get rid of write-in. So we don't have to sit there and read your chicken scratch to figure out who you're trying to vote for. Right. And so it's respecting the voters to say, okay, everybody's filed in. You had time to file in. Now go knock on the doors, and now we can print out your name so we can see how we can see what you're marking, and who you're voting for, and not trying to read your chicken scratch. So those two reforms for all of the states would help a lot, because that's part of the reason why hand counting is so troubling. Now, of course, some of the new gymnastics that states like to do is ranked choice voting. Are you kidding me? Yeah. Get rid of it.
I mean, look at Maine.
Stop the nonsense.
Maine has it, I believe, right? And
right.
Look at that. I mean, they loved Sarah Palin before that, and then she couldn't even get in at all. I mean, and then it gives you people like Lisa Murkowski.
Right. and so it just damages. So we know those things are built for fraud. Right. This is how you get Jacob Fry as a Minneapolis mayor. Right. So it's just like it's not swinging towards conservative ways. Why is that? So if we can analyze that, I think we can see why it was made. So elections, whenever you see new laws or features being implemented, if conservatives are continually losing ground, that tells you that whatever that law was, it was meant to make them lose ground and advantage a certain party.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of like the gerrymandering that you're seeing now. It's like Democrats gerrymandered everything, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, we're going to, redistrict Texas. It's like, oh my God.
Right.
It's like you guys literally, and then they fled to Chicago, the most gerrymandered, Illinois, the most gerrymandered state in the country. And, it's crazy. But let me ask you this question, all right? So I know 2020 was pretty crazy. If you were going to steal an election, theoretically, if you were going to steal an election, right, presidential election, what states would you target? And what county? You're not saying you need to do it. What county? But what states would you target, and why?
Well, obviously, you would try to target all the swing states, and you would also target any blue state that has massive populations and weak voter laws. And what I mean by weak voter laws is, do I need an ID? If I don't, I want to go to that state.
Right.
Is there vouching? Oh, I want to go to that state. Are there drop boxes? I want that state. Is there, and if I can look at, say, for example, mail forwarding companies. Oh, I want that state. So if you can register a mail forwarding company and register a bunch of voters to it, oh, I want in on those states. And here's what's scary. 3 states kind of lead in regards to mail forwarding companies: South Dakota, Texas, and Florida.
That's interesting.
It is. And here's why. Because they're no income tax states. And so the dynamics we caught right away in South Dakota during the 2020 election. People are like, why is South Dakota involved in the 2020 election? Oh, because there was an a la carte marijuana vote on that election. And there was also medical marijuana on there. Through surveys, we could see that the medical was going to pass flying colors.
Yeah.
But the a la carte free radical one, no, the public was against it. But when it came out, then all of a sudden we saw this huge voting of these mail forwarding companies that were really for the medical marijuana. But the rest of the population wasn't, and it tipped the election enough. And because Governor Nome at the time got involved, she created a case, brought it to the Supreme Court because it wasn't a clean single topic type of a ballot question, that we were able to get that thrown out. And as we continued to canvass and investigate, we were able to figure out what was really going on. Then in 2022, when it was brought back, the measure failed. So that's how we got the evidence that, yes, there was fraud, and it was through the mail forwarding companies.
Well, they were saying
South
that
Dakota.
too about like New York, that, people that that were born in New York overwhelmingly voted for Cuomo. And then everybody that just moved there and migrated there, so to say, voted for Mamdani. And it was like, people are just like, wow, this is. Can you imagine being a Jewish person living in New York right now?
You need to move, get out.
I would not. I mean, it'd be like a Jewish person living in Dearborn, Michigan. I mean, I'd be like, yeah, you'd be like, I mean, so yeah, literally. I mean, you got Omar.
I fear for a lot of Jewish Christian people in New York, because seeing the latest protests that are out there, I'm curious to see what No Kings is going to look like today, coming out of New York and some of these other cities. It is beyond the pale of where they're going. And as an example, going back to South Dakota here, imagine this scenario. And even the U.S. Census knows that this is a complete fraud. So in Emory, South Dakota, a small town of 465 people, at one house, there's 1,400 registered voters. Oh, don't worry. One of the county commissioners owns that mail forwarding company. He wins his election every time.
Oh my God. See, that's the kind of thing. And it's like, how do you get away with that?
Right. Oh, exactly.
It's like just giving somebody the finger in their face and be like, I didn't give you the finger.
Right. Exactly. And then poking their eye with it. It's I saw it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just wild. I mean, it's like don't believe what you see with your eyes. I mean, I think that's one thing that the Democrats needed to learn from the Joe Biden fiasco, is that, one, stolen elections do in fact have consequences. Are we really supposed to pretend that Joe Biden got 81 million votes, the most popular president of all time, to all of a sudden he's not able to even put enough money together to put together a presidential library? Come on.
Right. Well, actually, let's look at it this way as well. So you're telling me that Joe Biden's record numbers prove that the Democrats are actually sexist, racist, and Joe Biden, somehow the white swamp creature, is the best performing candidate over Obama and Kamala Harris and Hillary
Clinton. He carried
Clinton.
the ticket for Obama.
Right.
Apparently.
Right. So I'm supposed to believe that over they stole the election.
Right.
Because if if that is true about Biden, then we have more serious issues that we have to contend with across the country, because it's actually easier to believe that there was election fraud than my fellow countryman is that daft and broken.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, no, I would say that's Rush Limbaugh said it years ago, but he said conservatives have the most confidence in the humans, in the human people, and it's
Yep.
so true. You hear a conservative talk, and you're like, our rights come from God, not from the government. You know, when I want to give charity, it's from the goodness of my heart, not because I got some gun in my head saying you got to pay this tax. You know,
Right.
and
Right.
I don't know. I just feel like we need to get back to some of those values in a lot of these things, because especially in like the state of Michigan, I mean, I don't really know who the Republican Party out here is playing to. They're some of the weakest Republicans in probably the country. And, like I mean, I was telling you, I think on the phone that that we made a drinking game during my buddy's, during my thing, because
Yeah.
they played this thing. It was, she had said it was Tudor Dixon. She said no exceptions one time talking about abortion. And all they
Yeah.
did is Whitmer brought in all this money from Act Blue that was foreign funded 100%. And every commercial,
Yep.
football, go to commercial, no exceptions, no exceptions. We started making it a drinking game. No exceptions. Drinking. It was just so ridiculous. But that dark money, I think, is shut down now. And I think that will be interesting to see going into 2022, because you don't have this crazy, stupid money from like Sam Bankman-Fried. You don't have Act Blue, because they've pretty much neutered.
Well,
But
I'm going to caution you on that, because I'm seeing the money come in different places, and we have these new groups called Indivisible rising across the entire United States, and they're propping up this No Kings rally, and so there is still some kind of a funding mechanism that is going on. And if you start looking at these indivisible groups, they are everywhere. And they are having such extreme funding, and their marketing is over the top. So somebody is definitely behind this. And even with the ICE protests in Minneapolis and some of the other areas across the country, we are seeing these paid protesters, this professionalism come about. And it's actually, I'm more concerned now because I think they have stepped up their game and they have found another way to basically be more subversive. Now, they may have turned off some of the state, federal funding mechanisms going through, but believe me, there are other entities coming in, and we're even finding foreign money coming in to basically create this dystopia and this discontentment throughout
how
the
is the
United
foreign
States.
money
And so,
getting in now? That is it still coming in through those sources, you think, or?
it is, and it's even coming in through cryptocurrency. It's coming in directly, cash. It's coming in through investments. It's pretty scary how it's coming in, and I think this is part of where Trump needs to help Minnesota with some of the fraud. So when we look at the amount of money that's going out of Minnesota still today through the Minneapolis International Airport over into Somalia, this is where we need President Trump's help to basically say, okay, we've already declared Al-Shabaab as a terrorist organization. Now what we need to do is get the international community to freeze all of their bank accounts and then refund that money back to the United States. So that would be one of the first things that I would do, as you kind of asked earlier. Then we would need to basically look at the legal status of all of these immigrant populations and kick out all of the illegals that are here. And we need to go through and, as well as audit all of these organizations to find out who's who and who really needs, because we have literally allowed these people to pillage against people who truly needed these programs. And so we could have given more increases to the people who are really in need, our vets, our veterans, hospitals, our homeless shelters, mental, autistic, all of those folks could have been basically curtailed. And the generosity of Minnesotans for so long is to help their neighbors. And Walz has completely destroyed that trust. And he has not taken a single step to basically help Minnesotans have confidence in their government again, to help those who are truly in need. Now, Lindell, stylistically, would prefer to have faith-based organizations come in and actually do those roles because they have a higher success rate of actually helping lift people out through that positive piece. Just like you talked about Rush Limbaugh and how conservatives look at their fellow man versus the liberals.
Yeah.
I truly believe, and I believe in the gift that each of us have given. And what we need to do is, I look at James 1:25. Those who look at the perfect law of liberty and do to protect it will be blessed. The way I look at that is, we need to have government so small so that the individual can work with their neighbors to solve the community problems. Because if government does it, everybody gets lazy. Whereas if the people do it, there's actually going to be better quality, and there's going to be more of a connection, and the community becomes stronger. And so that's where the church community is so important. And this is where I look at pastors who are unwilling to play politics or be in the political realm. Shame on you. Are you willing to rip out a third of the Bible? Because a third of the Bible is political. I mean, how else do you explain Moses going to Pharaoh 10 times saying, "Release my people"? Do you think that was not a political act?
Or Leviticus is essentially just a law of end of Exodus into Leviticus into Deuteronomy. You're talking about a lot of, that's basically the structures of a government of a
correct.
So 100%.
Yeah, and even Jesus, talking to the Pharisees, even talking to the Roman Empire. I mean, it's just like, to say that we as Christians should not be engaged in politics is an absolute joke. And the very fact that we're supposed to be the salt and light of the earth means that we are supposed to be engaging, and people are supposed to be looking at us like, what makes you tick? Why are you so positive? Why are you this
Why am
way?
I so positive? Because I got the good man upstairs on my side.
Well, there's that, but also we took a sneak peek at Revelations, and we know God wins, so that should give us the confidence and the faith to basically go out and tell the truth. I mean, that's the reality of it. That's why I keep fighting on election integrity, because equal weights and measures is kind of a biblical thing.
Right. Yeah. Well, I woke up this morning. I said, "God, I love you." He says, "I think we should just be friends."
Right. Yeah. But you know my son. Yeah.
Exactly. That's how it works. Oh, shit. But so right now, Mike's like polling under, I forget who the other two were. What is the biggest move to close that gap?
Well, right now in polling, actually, Mike is ahead by one against the other candidates. And so that's when you look at polling, when you're looking at the August 11th primary. Now, against the Democrats, he's lower. But as Mike's story gets out there, of course, these are polls done by the left-wing media to make sure that they can help support their Democrat friends, as usual. But that's expected. And the reality is that the people are the ultimate poll. And so I think we're going to come out victorious on August 11th and then in the November general election. What's great is that yesterday, Mike just gave his CPAC speech, and so he's going to have the power of CPAC behind him and that entire force. And so to be able to get that notch on our collective belt is absolutely fantastic. And he's earned it. He's been there multiple times, and so I'm really proud of Mike for going down there to Texas to get their support, and
he deserves it. I mean, he's I don't know him personally, but he's a man of God, and that says a lot. Anybody to me that publicly professes that Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior, they're family to me. That's how I look at it.
They are, and that's the beauty of it, is that it kind of creates that little checklist automatically of, okay, so if they're professing, that's courage.
Right. We probably have the same values, right?
Right, exactly. So it's like, okay, so that relieves some of the trust issues, that we would have, with some of the other folks. And the reality, though, is that as I've gotten to know Mike, there has been a lot of surprising things that I've learned about the man himself and the courage that he brings. And I'm learning more about myself through him as well. And so I'm in this growing period as I go on this journey with Mike, and talking to his employees, talking to his family, being at my pillow, during the days when he is somebody who gets a lot of calls. He wants to know about the details of his company. His cell phone is given to all of his employees, so if anything comes up, they can call because he wants to know about these deviations so that they can collectively make the right decision and find solutions. He doesn't want people just complaining about a problem. He wants them to also develop a couple of solutions to present to him, so that way they're thinking, they're being empowered, and they're part of the solution as well, and they're growing. And seeing that through the relationships of his companies of Lindell TV, My Pillow, his America Brands company as well, and then also the Lindell Recovery Network, and seeing those calls and how he answers those calls and how he talks to those employees and partners. I mean, it's just incredible. And I was there when he was negotiating the deal with Rev 7 and putting that onto his My Pillow website, and kind of seeing that relationship and how he works through that. It was just like, that is absolutely incredible. And so as a campaign manager, it helps me represent him a lot better. And when he originally was asking me, is like, hey, Rick, and I know you live in South Dakota right now, and you used to live in Minnesota, but who should be my campaign manager? And I'm like, well, there's not that many people in Minnesota that have
that you would
gone
trust.
up on the election integrity route as you have, and I have subbed in a few of your shows as well. You and I have not always agreed on all of the election integrity aspects as to what's a priority or where we should drive, but we've really kind of come together over the last couple of years, and especially over the last 9 months. It's just been an incredible journey. And I'm like, and I've been a politician in Minnesota. I was active in the Republican Party 8 years as co-chair of the 3rd Congressional District, 8 years on the executive committee of the MNGOP, 10 years as a small town mayor, 4 years on the city council. And so it's like I kind of understand what's going on, and I still have family and customers out there
How
in
was the
Minnesota that
mayor
I go
thing?
see.
Was that a difficult role?
No, it was fun. As I tell people, as I served on the St. Bonnie City Council, I was sworn in and I was never sworn at. So I mean, I felt like I did a pretty good
That
job.
is good. That's
And
solid.
yeah, and it's a nice small town, 1 square mile. It started out with 1,800 people and ended with about 2,300 people. And the city clerk, Brenda Fisk, absolutely amazing to work with. The employees were fantastic. We had a new water treatment plant, a new water tower, roads, reformed taxes there, cutting taxes by 30%, working with the public to actually improve the parks. I even told them I'm not going to fund the parks department. I would rather have you guys donate to the Lions Club, so then you can have a tax write-off, and that's a legitimate reverse stimulus that you can actually do against the federal government.
That's as smart as it gets right there.
Right, and they actually raised the money and developed 3 of the parks, a couple of the ball fields, and did a great job. And the community did it, and I'm so proud of them for doing that. And one of the parks was used in a lot of the Target ads for the spring because of our baseball field out there as well. And so
awesome.
that was kind of neat.
Yeah,
And
that is cool.
great people out there, great police department partners in Minnetrista and
And you know
Mound.
what though?
And
They're probably so proud of that. Like they go and they go,
yes,
you know what? We did this.
yeah,
Like there's some tennis courts in Saginaw. I played college tennis growing up,
yeah,
and there's public courts in town here, and then they're pretty rough looking. And then there's
yep,
one where everybody threw in some money.
yep,
Beautiful courts. You could play a pro tournament there, but
yeah,
everybody's proud. Everybody loves it. They love the courts. They're very proud of what they did, and everybody can come out and play on it. It's pretty much public,
yep,
right? But
yep,
I agree. Like that's the way to do it, because then you have people that appreciate it,
yep,
instead of just like, oh, it's. I mean, I had a teacher back in college that always talked about, public that socialism versus capitalism, right? And he always
mhm,
made the analogy of like the public bathroom. The public bathroom is like communism. People go in there, they fuck it up. It's a mess. It's disgusting. It's not really great to look at. He goes, your own bathroom. You might put a rug in there. You're going to keep it clean. You're going to invest in it to make it comfortable while you're sitting there on the porcelain throne. Yeah.
mhm,
And I was
yep.
like, man, that is such a great analogy. I always think about that. I always take that with me.
Well, it is too, and how our own bathrooms is where you can go clean yourself, and for some of us, it's kind of where you might reflect a little bit while
Right.
you're
Think about your day.
think
The
about your
10
day,
minutes
you're
of
planning,
peace.
yeah,
Yeah.
while you're doing a
Especially if
dated
you have
dump,
kids. Yeah. Do some
you
thinking.
know, or while you're taking a shower and you feel free to sing and no one's going to criticize you, or it's just like you've got that 50-gallon hot water heater and it's like loosening up your sores from the day of the backaches and
Yeah.
something that you shouldn't have lifted, and
Right.
so and it's where you can kind of have a little bit of solace as well, and then as you prepare yourself, combing your hair and cleaning your teeth and all that, it's just like, yeah, I mean, it's like, would you feel, most Americans, would you feel comfortable even just bringing your toothbrush and toothpaste into a public restroom? Of
No.
course not.
No.
No, no. Or taking the hairbrush that's there on the counter and just, giving
Yeah,
yourself,
just
kind of a
using it.
little
Yeah.
fix up. Yeah, not
No
happening. There's
thanks.
a
Yeah.
little bit of the personalization aspect that is completely warranted when we have our own private bathrooms versus the public bathrooms.
Yeah.
And so, in the very fact that Minnesota and these other jurisdictions get confused as to where the boys and the girls are supposed to go, I mean, just this destruction of common sense is so disgusting.
Yeah.
It's just like
Yeah.
you almost want to say, tampon Tim. I mean, is you just like he's so confused that he puts the tampons in the boys' bathrooms
Yeah.
and then allows boys to play on girls' sports. And it's just like, no, Daddy's home now. Get
Yeah.
the tampons back in the girls' section. Get the boys out of the girls' sports and locker rooms,
Yeah.
and get the boys to go out and play out in the field with each other. To go play
I
soccer
never
or
understood
baseball.
the whole
Yeah,
men and women's sports thing. Like, if you're going to do that, just make a new league and call it co-ed and
correct.
leave
That's what it's called.
women's sports alone.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you want to have one that has men and women. Great. We know who's going to win.
yep, right.
But
And
at
I think
the end of the
And I think
day,
that should have been the solution. I don't know why they went down this road, because when we think about men and women's sports, those should be separate because they should be trying to promote the competitiveness, the teamwork, the skill level. And because women are not physically as strong as men when it comes, and the play is a little bit different, especially in basketball, football, etc. And that's okay. And allow women to actually get those leadership roles to succeed and to be able to get their confidence is so important. But for those who are confused and those who don't care about that, let's have co-ed sports where men and women can play with each other, boys and girls, but make sure it's age specific so that way it's a little bit closer.
right.
And that's okay too. And having those three should have been absolutely fine. And you
Yeah.
could have offered scholarships for all three buckets.
Right.
But especially for women, where you have women's sports and you have women's records, that should be. And if a lady feels that she can play on a football team, having a co-ed
God bless.
football team is the way to go.
Right.
Yeah.
It should not. It can go the one way. I mean, we have those biological differences. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
men are completely different, and it took me
That's right.
way too long to figure that out. But men and women, like they say, men are from Venus, women are from Mars, or vice versa. It's 100% true. I mean,
It is true.
when you try to figure out what's going on in a woman's head, you're not going to figure that out. I've learned that the hard way.
Yeah. This power ring right here is proof that I haven't figured it out yet, and I'm enjoying it every day. So I give grace, and so she is absolutely my better half, and we have our strengths, and so that's kind of the beauty of marriage, is that I know my bride. She was capable of having babies until she had a medical issue, but we have a beautiful son, and she's the nurturer, and I'm supposed to be the protector. And it is funny, as we have developed over our relationship, there was times that she would try to get into my zone, and I'd be like, no, not your role, not your job. Or sometimes when she would be like, kind of all rough and gruff, and it's just like, well, I'm going to do this. And I'm like, I'm going to sit back and watch this fail. And then finally she'd come back and it's just like, this is a man's job. You need to be doing this. And I'm like, yeah, but since you wanted to do it and I wanted to do it tomorrow instead of today, and you had this deadline of today trying to do it, and I told you I had other things to do, and you absolutely failed. And I've already allocated when I'm going to do it, and she's just fine.
But you know what? I think it's so important too, though. Like talking about the sports, and
Yeah.
and I had said too that business. I want all my politicians from now on to be businessmen, right?
Yep.
And there's a thing that you learn in sports about winning,
Yep.
losing,
Yes.
working hard,
Yep.
coming back, losing again, working hard, coming back, winning. Like,
That's right. That's
and
right.
and you're robbing that of young women when you put men in women's sports. You're robbing
Correct.
them of scholarships, of the attention, everything.
Right. Well, Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts as well. I'm so proud of Pete Hegseth for basically telling the Boy Scouts to get back in line and back on your side, and to basically
Boys, stop
fix it.
selling
Otherwise, we're
cookies.
cutting your funding. Right. And watching that whole disaster, I'm an Eagle Scout. My son's an Eagle Scout. Thankfully, before the Boy Scouts went woke, but we were seeing that happening as my son was exiting the scouting program. And there were certain things that we did as through the Boy Scout program where boys needed to basically have those failures without embarrassment as boys to be able to kind of learn how, as future men, how to help each other. Because girls and boys see things differently when we fail. And some things that are said to boys are not appropriate for girls. So, for example,
Correct. Yeah.
when
I
a
know
boy
exactly.
falls down and skins their knee, what do we say? Rub some dirt in it, you'll be fine.
Yeah. Get up.
We can't say that to a girl.
Yeah. Oh my God, are you okay?
Right. And so that's so important because the men, we are training as warriors for the battlefield.
Yeah.
Women, we are training for nurses and nurturing and caring
Well, they were
for
saying too,
the
the
future generation.
biological difference between men and
Correct.
women, right?
Yeah.
Is that you have, a couple laying in bed, right? And
Yep.
the baby starts crying. The husband
Right.
will sleep straight through it. Wife pops up
Yep.
like, oh my God, I gotta go check that.
Right.
Now, if the baby's sleeping, the wife's asleep, and somebody tries to break inside outside, dad pops up before he even, and it's a biological, it's like, call it evolutionary, whatever. Men
Yep.
listen for the threat, women listen for the child. It's just a
Yep.
biological thing, and you're never going to change that. I mean, and then obviously the strength end of it too. I mean,
Right.
we saw like the Olympics boxing with that, it was like, oh my God, that hit was like, whoa.
Yeah.
The only thing about not having men and women sports is I don't have, locks and gambling anymore. So, that kind of sucks, but
Yeah. And the other thing too is like, why are we trying to force everybody to have everything? We need to have those differences because the beauty of my wife is that she can have the baby and there is that nurturing aspect of her, and I'm not jealous of it. Why are women jealous of the things that men are doing? And they're so jealous that why is it that in some of these professions, like, I don't know, let's just look at it. Who is cleaning up all of the sewage of the sewer systems of all these cities?
oh man,
Oh yeah, it's 99% men. When it comes to the oil rigs, it's 99% men.
yeah.
That
You
are
look at
out there.
nursing,
Right.
90% women.
Most women. And teaching, it's
Most
majority of it is women.
Yeah.
And so
It takes a
why are
special
we
thing to put up
trying
with kids all day.
exactly? And so that's where those differences are okay. And when you even hear some of the women CEOs, how come you haven't hired all women?
Yeah.
No. And they give you the honest answer. Thank God they're honest about it.
The whole thing
it's
too,
just
they were like, oh, women are paid less. It's like, well, you also have them, okay, take teachers into consideration. Most of them are teachers. They get so many
right.
months off during the year.
Right.
Or when a woman goes on maternity leave,
Yep.
she's going to take more time at home, and
Right.
the husband's going to be out there doing his thing to support them.
Yep.
These numbers are just so disingenuous and so misleading that it's like, like when Google did a thing not too long ago where they were tried to do the, to show their gender pay gap, and it turned out that they were actually paying women more than the men. And people say, well, if I could, as a business person, if I could pay a woman less money to do the same job as a man, why wouldn't I just hire all women?
Right.
Well, yeah,
right. Exactly. It's such a canard, and it's so disingenuous. And when you look at women, they're not always seeking the highest, riskiest positions.
Right.
So of course there is a pay gap there, and so you're looking at the statistics completely wrong. And when we look at entrepreneurs, it's funny they don't look at the pay gap there, because when women are in essence in charge of their own direction, they get to decide what their pay is. And so are they complaining?
Right.
No.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's a logical thing too, I think, between men and women, where, women are more, let's say it's called emotional IQ. There's more of an emotional,
Right.
When you see somebody hurt, for example, like the Renee Good thing or the Peretti, most people would be like, oh my God, that was so bad. He was just there. It's like, no, logically says, why did he have a gun at a protest? You know, all these things.
Why did he go to this protest? What made you get up this morning when
and go hit an ICE agent with a car? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'm going to get a gun. I'm going to go down, and I'm going to engage my fellow man in this situation. And we look at the other 90% of Minnesotans that lived in that area, and they made the decision of, yeah, I'm going to do a hard pass, and I'm going to go continue with my life to basically go and do the things that I want to do, and I'm not going to get involved in this whatsoever. So why did the 90% do the right thing and he do the wrong thing?
Right.
There were so many decisions that he made along the way. And then plus, then we find out videos from prior that he literally was violent and kicked the back end of a vehicle and broke the tail lights.
And it turns out that he was not a good guy. He was just fired from his job as a nurse for something shady.
Right, exactly. So we find that out as well.
I mean, you got to be some type of mentally ill to be out there doing that. Like, I'm sorry. Like, how?
Right.
Like, do you really have nothing better to do? Like, after a day of work, okay, even if I'm not working, I'm not out there protesting.
Right. Well, we also need to lay blame to the media itself in Minnesota, because they're the ones basically putting out the lie out there regarding what's happening in Minneapolis, that these ICE agents are basically just rounding up people and arresting them and deporting them, including U.S. citizens. Okay, well, there's a process here, and we do have to explore some of these weird situations and unique situations that have happened. Like there was this Hmong gentleman that was taken out of his house in his pajamas, basically, and perp walked outside. So these people that sit there and say that ICE needs a search warrant, well, that's not true. That's not backed based upon previous administrations. Now, there are questions on mistaken identity that we have to figure out, like, well, wait a minute. What evidence did ICE rely on for them to break down that door to seize the occupants of that residence?
Right. Something.
So there's something there that compelled those actions. And so I think that's the bigger question that all of us deserve an answer to, such as, did somebody inappropriately use his address as their residence? Did, for any type of documentation, did the person live there before? Did he provide shelter there? So there's more to this story that we need to identify. And so with some of that evidence, I think it will cause concern for a lot of people to say, who is marked at living at my house? Right. Am I at risk? So what databases
you would think there'd be like
government?
A website or something where you could go, hey, who's registered? Just look up how many people are registered to one address or whatever. You think there would be like some type of website for that, where you can
We actually did that in Minnesota, and the Secretary of State wanted to sue one of our partner organizations, the Minnesota Election Integrity Group, MNEIT, Minnesota Election Integrity Team. They actually had it up there posted where you could type in your address and it would show you all the registered voters there. Oh, the Secretary of State of Minnesota took exception to that and demanded that they immediately take down that website. But you are right, and I think it's actually important because when I've been out there running for office or helping other candidates, and I knock on doors and I say, "Hey, are these people here? I'm looking for this person." And they're like, "No, they moved out 6 years ago." And it's just like they're still a registered voter, and they just voted last year. What?
Right. Well, and I was actually, and I'm glad that you brought that up because it was something that I wanted to ask you about. And I think I saw it on one of Mike's things because I watched all that election stuff to be honest with you. But you look at the 2010 census, and then you look at 2020 voting, and it almost mirrors that. And you have people that never voted before that were registered, and it mimicked the census. Now, if it's mimicking the census has illegals in there.
Correct.
So that tells you something, especially if it's mimicking it line for line.
Yep, you are absolutely on the right track, and that is cause for serious concern. And this is exactly why the Department of Justice, but under Harmeet Dillon, is actively requesting voter rolls from many of the states to have this review. And Secretary Simon of Minnesota, who used to be the head of the National Association of Secretary of States, now he's the past president, he has objected to that very investigation. And so you want to know why they want to investigate this? Because just a year or two ago, the Department of Justice actually found a husband and wife team who were former Minnesotans living in Nevada that injected over 500 fake voters into the Minnesota voter rolls.
That's insane. That's a lot of votes.
They had a settlement. You can actually go to the Department of Justice website in Minnesota, and you can search for that case, and you'll actually see that. And so this is where I contend there is legitimate reason for the Department of Justice to review these fact patterns in Minnesota.
Well, and then, too, you had the chain of custody, what was it, 200,000 ballots or something like that in Georgia that didn't have the chain of custody? And you talk about it, Donald Trump was on the phone with Kemp saying, find me the votes. You have 200,000 ballots that do not have anything. And the fact of the matter is that if he didn't count those votes, then you would have to be like, yeah, I didn't count the votes because there was no chain of custody. Somebody would have to get in fucking trouble for that.
Correct.
And that nobody has. It's just been it's been a runaround, and I'm glad that, Fannie Willis got what she had coming, but it's been crazy. And especially after the 2020, the way they went after everybody, the Democrats like to say, oh, well, all those court cases never went anywhere. That's because of the Democrat mob. Nobody wanted no judge wanted to sit there and be like, you know what, I'm going to do this. There was one in Michigan who was like one of, I forget exactly what she was, but she came out openly and said, hey, this is not right. And she had like a very high up position on the election, and she had death threats. They posted her kids, school address and the pictures and the school name and that address, their phone numbers. It's like, just for doing the right thing, your kids are getting doxxed and all of that.
Well,
and it's like,
I've had the same experience, and so was Lindell, so was Giuliani, Jenna Ellis, Rudy. I mean, it's just like the list goes on and on. And what's crazy is that during the 2020 election in Minnesota, the first part of the primary election, before that happened, Minnesota Voter Alliance reached out to me because their database person was gone at the time, and they asked me to review their data, and I said, sure, I can help you out. We go back, and so we've kind of helped each other out. And I looked at the data, and I'm like, holy cow, this is bad, because Minnesota Voter Alliance was concerned that Mark Elias was lobbying Steve Simon to allow a la carte mail-out ballots during COVID. And Minnesota Voter Alliance asked, what kind of danger could that have? And I said, well, let me run a report. Well, there were thousands of addresses that were incorrect that didn't have the house number in the front, and there were tens of thousands of addresses where there were rental units or apartments that didn't have the apartment unit in there. And then, of course, there were tens of thousands of students at various colleges throughout Minnesota for the dorms that didn't even have a room number or an apartment number going out to those dorms. And so I asked my son, who was at South Dakota State University as one of the resident assistants, and I go, "Hey, Michael, what happens if you get a letter that's not addressed to a room number?" He goes, "Oh, we just put it on the table." I'm like, "Holy cow, that's all I need." And so I write the report back to the Minnesota Voter Alliance, and they won that first 2020 case to prevent the a la carte mail out of absentee ballots in Minnesota.
Crazy. It's crazy that
Then
they
there
would
was
want to do that. You know,
oh
it's especially
yeah,
after Jimmy Carter said how it wasn't secure. It's not safe. It's
right.
prone to fraud.
Then the general election comes along, and I'm still kind of monitoring the elections in Minnesota, and then I start looking at some of the daily absentee, and then I'm looking at the end results, and I'm like, wait a minute here, there's something wrong with the data here. And so then I start prepping members of the legislature to start requesting voter rolls, and they're getting blockaded. And I'm like, okay, something's up here. And finally, one of the legislature gets me an early peek at a database, and I start running through the numbers, and I'm like, holy cow, there is something here. Now let's see what happens post certification. Well, then Minnesota certifies their election, and I buy another voter roll, and this voter roll that I get through Minnesota Voter Alliance. What was interesting is that basically 5 days after certification and 25 days after the election, there were 750,000 absentee ballots that were not connected to a voter.
That's
Even
insane.
though the state law at the time says
That's crazy. That's
when an
so
absentee
many.
ballot is received, it must be immediately entered into the statewide voter registration system. So that means they violated the law.
Right.
It wasn't
and somebody
there.
needs to be held accountable for that.
Right. And then they were like, well, it's in this separate database and over there. Well, the state statute doesn't talk about separate modules or separate databases. It talks about one.
Right.
And so they should have clicked the button to have whatever temporary database they were in moved over. What was the holdup? It should have been there. And so that taught us a lot. And because we had filed these cases, and then there was the whole post-election audit, which was another funny one in Dakota County. This election official literally brings ballots up in a purse. And we're like, what the heck?
Right. What's
How
going
was
on
that
here?
chain of custody?
How much
did the purse cost?
Seriously.
How was it sealed? Where are
Right.
the tags? Who signed off
supposed
on
to be
it?
Tape on the box,
Right.
and if it shouldn't be cut,
Right. And then on top of it, a bunch of ballots were missing in one of the other precincts. I want to say like 350, 450 ballots were missing out of this one precinct, and they signed off on it anyway, saying, oh, yeah, everything is all good. Wait a minute, what? No, in Minnesota law, if you have a variance, you're supposed to select 3 more precincts, conduct additional audits. And so we present this evidence to the Minnesota Supreme Court and also the court systems there. And they basically said because we didn't know where Ilhan Omar was, they combined all of the cases together and chucked them. And it was absolutely terrible. And then we get weaponized, and there's another longer story to that whole case that could actually be a miniseries because a Supreme Court justice daughter dies, my house gets shot at, I get called for federal grand jury down in Sioux Falls. I mean, it's just like all this stuff happens. The attorney I'm working with is getting followed and stalked. I mean, it's just like it was just off the charts what we discovered and kind of what we went through, and it was just like, holy cow! And my wife was afraid, and she just finally, through this whole process, she's just like, you're onto something, keep going. And little did I know
when that
how
happens,
much
they know you're over the target.
Yep, exactly. And that's what the attorneys were saying as well. Since then, she's lost her law license. They've suspended her. And then as I've worked with other attorneys, they've attacked them. And even attorneys I didn't work with, like Eric Cardall, who was a Minnesota attorney that went and helped in the Wisconsin election cases, coming back, they tried to go after his law license as well. We see that across the United States. Giuliani, Ellis, Sidney Powell, all of these folks. And it's just like,
what was the
and we
one
weren't
lawyer?
coordinated.
I'm trying to think of his name. Starts with an S. Why can't I think of it? But it was, I can't think of it. But it was like
sure.
out in California, like they did the same thing. It was like, oh, he's a Trump lawyer. Well, let's disbar him. We don't really care. Let's just disbar him.
It really put a fear into a lot of attorneys to be able to even take election cases because they could get sanctioned by their own bar association, which is predominantly going to be left leaning. Not
and they basically thugged these people into saying, hey, you need to say that the election wasn't stolen and it was safe. And they're like, no,
Right.
you're going to say it, otherwise you're going to go to jail. Like, all right, fine. What were your thoughts on Jenna Ellis? I feel like she kind of buckled a little bit during that 2020 thing. Maybe, maybe
She
not.
buckled a lot. And
Yeah,
I think she was threatened, and it was unfortunate. During the case proceedings, she was absolutely amazing and articulate in what she was presenting for the cases. And I believe she was way over the target, and she was investigating very sharp about reviewing the law, reviewing the administrative rules, and presenting the violations that were there. But then the targeting of her and the pressure that they went after her,
yeah,
she had to save her career and save her family. And so I get where she's at. And I hope later on, if our country ever heals, that we can have more of the truth from her to find out exactly what happened, because
yeah.
I think her case and so many other attorneys that were damaged by this, I think there has to be changes to our legal system.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the oversight just isn't there. And so this is where
I mean, look at these
talking
judges.
with
They keep overturning everything. I mean,
well,
rogue
correct. And
judges.
here's another case in Minnesota that is just off the just off the beaten path. So in 2024, so this is not even 2020. This is 2024 in Minnesota.
Wow.
We have evidence and admission by a clerk out of Shakopee, Minnesota, where she threw away 21 ballots. Okay. This ended up being consequential in a race that was won by 14 votes
Oh my gosh.
for the
That's where it
Minnesota
counts. Yeah.
legislature. This thing we actually present and get into a court case, but when we even talked to the attorneys the night before the presentation of the case, and I reveal that, hey, there's actually 56 duplicate ballots that we found as well, according to the voter history records. And they didn't want to take it up at that part up. They were just going to fight for the 21 ballots being thrown away. Well, the judge, he basically rules that he can't do anything because the Minnesota statutes doesn't give him the authority to call for a new election when fraud like this is discovered. So
Unbelievable.
what's consequential about this is that Tabke ends up winning here, or Talib, whatever his name is, and he ends up being one of the um, leaders in the protests in Minnesota, where he's one of the administrators for the Signal Chap, basically helping people organize all of these riots in Minnesota, along with Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan. And so
That's
this is
wild.
where things go. And so elections do have consequences.
They do.
And it still breaks my heart that here we are. And the federal government has yet to go contact this election official, because under U.S. Code 52-20701, all election materials are supposed to be retained for 22 months, and it is a felony to destroy election materials. The
Right.
literal fact that you don't have 21 of those ballots, I don't know what more sanctity of an election material is other than the original ballot is.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like, I mean, just the whole process that they had for the ballot, right? Like a ballot comes in, bubbles, kind of like you said, not filled in all the way, kind
Yep.
of weird. They feed it
Yep.
through. The machine doesn't take it, comes back. So then they pass it to somebody else who then takes it and says, okay, this is a vote for Donald Trump. And they take a new ballot, fill it in, put that one through. And that's how they like reconcile.
Right. Fear the
And
ballot.
yeah. And so you have this, and it's like there's no real way of being able to like really audit these things. And like you said, aren't you supposed to hold on to them for 22 months to, I mean, I've heard longer time periods, 2 years, year, depending on
Yeah, so
whatever.
the federal requirement for federal elections is 22 months, and in some states will have shorter amounts for their other elections that don't have federal consequences, and some states may have a longer period. And so in some states, they kind of conflict in different areas of their statutes. Wyoming has these weird conflicts in there. South Dakota this year finally just made it uniform for all elections to be record kept for 22 months, no matter the type of election. And I helped write that bill and get it into the legislature just so that we could have uniform election processes, just to
Right.
make it easier.
We need
So
uniform election processes. You can't have, like in 2020, where Pennsylvania had ballots coming in for 7 days afterwards. It's like, when you have that happen, it's like, hey, how many more ballots do we need? Well, we need 10 more, 100,000 more. All right, we'll find them.
Right.
You can't
And
have
that's
that.
actually an interesting point. In Minnesota, the Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport has a post office there. So you could actually see how the election results are. And if they're not in your favor at 8, 9 o'clock, you could fill out a bunch of ballots by downloading them off of the internet, even though they're not supposed to be there. But 19 of the counties in 2024 had their ballots online without
That's
the word
wild.
sample and just had the timing marks there. So you could
Unreal.
download them, print them out, and then you could go get the postal stamp before midnight on election night and still have that absentee ballot counted in the election.
Well, and then in 2022, you had people, postal workers, that were changing the date. Like they were like
Correct.
scratching it out and
Backdating
putting
them.
oh, we
Right.
gotta get this one in. So I mean,
Or postal workers
if
that would throw
that's not an
ballots.
argument to get rid of the U.S. Postal Service, I don't know what is.
Well, I've got two more for you. We know of okay. I'm going to give you three things. One is breaking news that I probably don't have permission to say, so I'll kind of couch it. We know that there's public records. You can do a Google search of ballots found along the side of the road.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that means that there are postal workers chucking them out there.
Right.
We are also aware that some postal workers will hold on to ballots from conservative districts and intentionally deliver them late.
I believe that. That does not surprise me at all.
So that way they're not counted. Correct. Then the third thing I'm aware of an organization that is conservative that for the last 3 months, that post office has withheld their mail that were supposed to be donations going to that organization.
What?
Yes, it was intentionally withheld. I am going to be talking to that organization's leadership to see if they will come out and actually, and unfortunately they messed up the whole chain of custody because they eventually talked to some of the managers of the Postal Service and they finally got their mail. But this wasn't a little dollar amount.
Right.
This was a lot. This was tens of thousands of dollars.
Right. That's
that
crazy.
They were withholding.
That's crazy.
And so it makes me wonder. So that's what they withheld. What did they throw away?
Right. Or destroy. We never found.
Right. And so this is criminal at this point. And so 3 months worth of donations being held and not delivered to the conservative organization.
It's criminal. It's disgusting.
Yep. And so
especially too, it's mostly Christian organizations. You're just holding.
Right.
It's what you're doing. You're holding up a Christian organization from helping people. That's essentially what they're doing.
So we just gave 4 reasons why you should be voting on election day and not voting absentee. You should not trust the U.S. Postal Service. They even told you before the 2024 election that there could be delays. They even told you and put out a warning that you shouldn't even send checks through the mail.
Right. But you can send a ballot. The most.
Right.
That's
and what's
crazy.
The value of a ballot? We actually did a calculation with a friend over in Wyoming where she asked me the question, and I said, okay, let's go through the federal budget over a 2-year period because that's the worth of a congressman. Let's go over your state budget because that's the worth of one of your legislators, and divide that by the number of voters. And we just kind of kept going through your county, your school, your city, and we calculated it. And for her, her ballot is worth $85,000 a year.
Wow. I believe that. And then you got people giving away for like $5 or a piece of pizza.
Right, exactly. So when we think about that, you should think about your ballot, your vote is worth $85,000.
Yeah.
That's a lottery ticket.
Yeah, right. 100%. Yeah. And you need an ID to get on a plane. I was in the car business for many years. You need an ID to get a car, Half of these Democrats require IDs just to get into their event.
Right. Almost all of their events.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. I want to know what criminal cesspool life you're living that you don't have an ID or unwilling to present one because you apparently you didn't open up a bank account. You don't have a car legitimately. You
Right.
obviously aren't traveling to be able to get rental organizations. So what black market life are you living
Right.
that
Yeah.
you are totally off the radar, that an ID is not available to you? Now,
Right.
I will
And
put an asterisk.
I would rather somebody accidentally get booted from the voter rolls than have,
Yep.
and be like, oh, sorry, it was a mistake, didn't mean to take you off, than have hundreds of thousands of dead people that moved away just willy nilly,
Right.
on the voter rolls. I think
And it
I would
is,
rather have that the other way, but the media makes it out like, well, if you change your name, if you get married, and it's like, so now you're saying that women are too stupid to figure out how to get an ID if they change their name, get married. Okay, let's ask your husband, maybe. I don't know.
yeah, that's sexist.
Yeah, right.
And most places, as you get married, kind of walk you through those little to-do lists. And I'm actually concerned about the next phase. If this is actually a thing, what legal crisis are we creating in the future when it comes to her parents passing away and she hasn't done the right legal documents? Or when she passes away, how are her children going to inherit
Right.
things properly? How are you going to deal with property rights and all of these other things?
Right.
And what about the bank accounts and
Yeah.
everything else? How was your will done? I mean, it's just like you have
Yeah.
so many issues going across here that need to be resolved, that your life is a hot mess if you're in that situation. Now,
Right.
the asterisk I do want to talk about is I know Native Americans have good vetted IDs already through them, but there's probably some other religious groups that may not have um,
An
it
ID, kind
quite
of like an
connected with
Amish.
our society, such as like a Hutterite community, Amish. Now, it's possible that they could be discriminated against, but I'm going to say that their elders are probably smart, that they're
Right.
probably going to be in compliance.
Yeah.
They'll figure it out. So,
Right. Yeah. No, I mean they're smart. I mean they do stuff that
yeah,
with like no technology that we
right,
struggle to do with.
right. Now, the other
Moving a
part
whole
is
house, we've
true.
seen stuff.
Yeah. Now, the other part has been breaking out of Alpha News in Minnesota, and I had asked this question of a few peace officers, and I'm like, um, in the Somali communities, how many DOA calls do you get? And it caused them a pause. And I'm like, uh-oh, I stumbled on something, didn't I?
Yeah.
And they're like, we
Oh.
don't get that many. And so during an interview with Alpha News, a peace officer that was um, not they were protecting because they didn't want him to be attacked. They didn't reveal his name or his identity, and they were interviewing him live. And Alpha News was asked the same question, and he's like, they're not reporting their deaths, and they're taking care of it." And I'm like, well, wait a minute here. So you're telling me they're not reporting their deaths to the coroner or to the Social Security Administration of their elders? So this
Right.
is potential open fraud, that they're
Right.
still collecting money and casting votes then. Are
Right.
you kidding me?
And then also, what are you doing with the body?
Well, they have their own religious practices and processes that their mosques take care of and process.
Hmm.
So, but that
Interesting.
is a question. It's like, wait a minute here. Are they to the standards of our laws?
Right. Yeah.
We
Is it
need to
like the
check into this.
desecration of a body?
Right,
Whatever.
exactly. So raises all sorts of questions
But
that
I
we
agree
need
with
to
you
assess.
100% too. You have these guys. You're not reporting a death. And 90% of the Somali community is on some type of welfare.
Right.
You could still be collecting money from that when somebody's been dead for 6 years.
Right. And so that's another area that needs to be investigated. And, as I come to understand the Somali community a little bit better, there are different clans that are out there. Are all Somalis bad? No. And so we need to figure out who the bad ones are, those clans, get them out,
Right.
prosecute them. And the ones that are the really good clans that are moderates, and they just want to succeed and have a chance for their
Right.
kids. And yeah, they
Right.
might be practicing Muslims that are not compatible with
Whatever.
my faith, and I look as an opportunity to see if we can convert them to Christianity. And
Right.
they're going to try and convert me to Muslim, and
Right.
that's not happening. And
Right.
and as long as we can joke like you and I are, through that discussion, we're going to have peace and we're going to have
Right.
fun.
Yeah.
And we'll just have a calmness about it. But and those folks that are creating the small businesses, trying to help their daughters, giving them the equal respect as other women in our society, as women with equal rights to have equal opportunity to go out there, that's good. But as soon as they are basically doing this mutilation, they're trying to subject them, put them into slavery, marry them when they're below 18.
Yeah.
I'm not for that. It's just like, I'm sorry. I'm out. We're incompatible at that point. But if you're willing to play by our rules and actually give your kids a chance and yourself a chance to be connected into society. Yeah, and plus, every society has a really good dessert, so I'm interested. I want to try and see what you can do because I love chocolate, love my sugars.
I do too,
and
my friend. I do too.
and of course, with different societies, we know every society likes to troll their neighbors. And so, how else do you explain, kimchi and blood sausage and lutefisk and all this other stuff? It's because we're trolling you, right? And we want to see if you can actually handle it. So we got to find out what the Somalis have for their trolling food and what's their good food. So
that's funny. So let me ask you this. So what was the most egregious thing that you found during the 2020 election?
Oh,
it's probably tough. Where do I start?
Actually, I mean, it's like, so where do I start? The reality, I'm going to say the biggest one uniformly across the entire country is that the machines were not properly tested through logic and accuracy testing. Even though the United States Election Assistance Commission has clear guidance of how to properly test and evaluate the machines, uniformly what we're finding is that election officials don't know how to use their machines. They are not testing to the federal standard. They send out some
third-party person to go out and be like, hey, this is how you do it, real quick.
No, they're not even doing that.
Really?
Even though ES&S, for example, has a base level, it's not adequate. So imagine this. So let's say you have 4 candidates on the ballot. Okay. What we would find is that sometimes an election official might only test for this candidate, one oval with one ballot, and say, yep, we tested it. It worked fine.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. You didn't test this oval. You didn't test this one. And you didn't test this one. And you didn't even do the basic of saying 1 ballot for here, 2 ballots for here, 3 ballots for here, and 4 ballots for there. So that way you could tell if any of the votes were flipped.
Right.
Then on top of it, the most egregious part of it is uniformly the disability devices were not tested robustly enough at all. So typically what we saw uniformly across the United States is that the disability voting machines, especially express vote, were tested so insufficiently that it violated 14th Amendment equal protection under the law.
Wow. That's amazing. It's crazy that what we've lived through, It's like, it's like I remember cash for clunkers under Obama and stuff like that.
Right.
And, it's like I was thinking about this, that the next, and quote me on this, next Democrat president that we have, Taiwan is gone.
Oh,
China's taken it 100%.
Yep. Absolutely. I believe it.
And they won't do anything. They'll be like, they'll just rattle that cage and say, oh, we're going to do something. They won't do anything. It'll be like Obama with Bashir al-Assad. Here's my red line. Don't cross it. Oh, you crossed it. Oh, well.
And I think we have a real issue with Taiwan because, and that's a separate issue as we look at that. Can the U.S. actually protect Taiwan with the naval fleet that China has so close there? And what will the U.S. do? And so the U.S. has to prepare. And so we are preparing right now that we see this huge investment of SMC, NVIDIA, Intel, Apple, of trying to bring their chip manufacturing into Mexico and the United States. But we just had this huge disaster last year where down in Arizona, there was this huge dust storm that came into one of the factories. It destroyed it. So there is dust everywhere, and they are going to have to either abandon it or build a completely new facility because all of that fine dust got into it and destroyed all of the chips and all of the machines.
Wow.
And so it's like we are set back And it'll take us 3 years from the word go to basically be able to start putting chips out. Thankfully, this has started 5 years ago for some of the manufacturers and last year for others. And we are running out of time. And we are looking at chip manufacturing right now, and we're building the wrong facilities. And the facilities that we're building for are the old design, which is great for security companies, alarms, and stuff like that, and automotive. But for computers and for AI, these are not the right facilities. And the first generation AI chips that were out there are already expired. And the new AI chips that are being kind of small manufactured, they are going to outpace today's chip makers to where they're almost irrelevant. And so the data centers that are popping up everywhere right now on the old chips, the new AI chips, you won't need as much space. And so that's kind of a warning to so many states right now. If you're investing in these AI data centers, stop.
Right.
Because in the next 3 years, the first major chips from Google, Dell, and NVIDIA are going to be out at a corporate consumer level to where they'll be able to make use of it. And we're within 5 years of consumers being able to have these high power chips.
Do you think?
And so for security, it completely wipes it out of the market. And so when we look at, say, the security of voting machines, you'll be able to hack that algorithm like that.
So their chips are like super old, is what you're saying.
They're super fast, and their error correction is so fast that it is unbelievable, and it has less of an error rate than today's chip that you're using on your computer and what I'm using on my computer right now.
Interesting. So I see too with a lot of, I'm so glad that we're moving away from this EV bullshit, especially in the car business. I think we'll see a lot of those facilities move, that were EV will move into, creating chips or creating, other things that are a little bit more important. But like,
right.
We had this guy, who was a guy who bought a Chevy Volt, right? And he's driving, he buys it in Michigan and he's driving it back to Illinois, right? It's the middle of the winter. With the heat on, he only got like 150 miles. And he's going back to Illinois. It took him like 3 days to get back. But we're like,
oh my God.
Okay, city driving, fine. I will do that all day. When you want me to go a long distance, it's not there. And all these older car guys were like, if they ever move to EV, I'm retiring. Like, there's no way. I mean, how do you make somebody who's like always had a Duramax diesel, big truck? Oh, hey, here's an electric four-banger that gives you what we say is the same, hauling capacity. No thanks.
No, it doesn't. It's not even close.
Yeah, doesn't work that way.
I know a guy who bought one of the Lightning F-150s, and he's a city slicker and drives it. He enjoys it and stuff like that. And then when he tried to take his boat up into northern Minnesota, he was just like, I got stranded, man. I don't know how people are going to do this.
Yeah. And not to mention, it takes so long to charge these things. You could charge it in 10 minutes,
Right.
And I had this idea a while back where it's like, if you could literally make these electric cars so that you could just pop out the battery, buy a new battery, pop it in and go, then maybe you might have something there. You know how you recycle, your propane tanks kind of thing?
Right.
I was thinking like something like that, right? Because then you're not sitting there waiting 102 hours for a full charge that gets you 100 miles, It just wasn't there, and nobody wanted it.
And car manufacturers won't do it.
Oh, they hated it. And it was such a garbage thing. Nobody wanted these cars.
Yep, so I lost the audio with you.
Oh, you hear me? You still hear me? Oh, I lost you.
There we go. Now I'm back.
All right, I'm back. Well, I will let you go, but I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for being here. It was a great conversation.
Yep, anytime. And please support Mike Lindell, gov.com. And thank you guys. And be involved in politics. It's actually enjoyable. And I want to thank you for this conversation. And this is the way politics should be, just kind of having fun.
Have a good conversation. And that's what it's about, debate. And that's one of the things too, like we were talking about earlier, the Republicans actually have a debate, and it's nice to see.
Right.
But Democrats don't. It's always just like, this is the way it is. This is the narrative. This is what we're going to do. They're like, okay,
Yep.
get in line.
Yep. You bet. And so stay awesome. Thank you so much.
You too. Thank you so much for coming on. You're the man.
Yeah. Thank you. You too. Yep. Bye.
Bye. All right. So that is our show for you today. Thank you so much for joining in. God bless every single one of you. God bless the United States. Keep the faith. Great things are coming, as they always are. The good times are coming. The golden age is here. Keep the faith. God bless. And have a great week. We'll see you next Saturday at 11 a.m. Have a great one.